Hi everyone, and welcome to the Business Events Podcast, a podcast that hosts interviews and discussion panels with experts from the business events industry and academia. I am Monica Martins, and today my co-host Raquel and I will interview Stephanie Lee, a business events professional who is based in Edinburgh. Stephanie, welcome. Good morning. It's great to have you here. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
You're very welcome.
I would like to ask you to please let us know a bit of your background and what is currently your occupation.
Sure. So I was born and brought up in Edinburgh, and I attended Napier University, actually, your alumni, back in the 90s, and I did my degree in hotel and catering management, and from that set me on a course. I wanted to travel. That was what I wanted to do the most, and for me, a career in hospitality was going to allow me to do that. And I was going to leave Scotland and never come back, but the best laid plan never quite happened that way. So I travelled. I did my internship, the 6-month placement that you did. I did in the Banff Springs Hotel in Banff, Alberta, Canada, which was an amazing experience. Wow. It was beautiful. And then I went back the following year on the student placement visa and did a further year in Canada, and then from there I went to America and I did 6 months in the States working in Massachusetts, and then from there I moved on to Bermuda, where I worked for a couple of years in a beautiful resort in Bermuda, working as a waitress, having the best time ever, waitressing, making more money, more cash than I've ever made in my whole life. And met Scottish who brought me back to Scotland. So these big plans for global domination. And I end up, if you ever see Bermuda on a map, I mean, most maps doesn't even show Bermuda. It's just it's a titchy little volcanic rock that sits in the middle of the Atlantic. It doesn't show up. And so to meet a Scotsman who I met and followed and married, it still blows my mind, quite honestly. We've been together 20 odd years now. And so we ended up, long story, ended up in Scotland. We've got 2 daughters, and once my smallest daughter was past nursery, getting to the end of nursery, I looked at coming back into full-time work. And obviously what I had done before had been hospitality, had been operational based. I'd been a waitress. I had a great time working really hard, but you can't do that when your husband's a chef as well. So I looked at moving into sales because I've got quite an outgoing personality and I'm just super passionate about hospitality. So I started at the Radisson, and I worked at the Radisson Royal Mile for a year as a sales exec, and then I moved to Sodexo, Prestige Venues and Events, and worked in the sales team there for 5 years, and worked in the national accounts team, which was really lovely. And then I did a year at the Royal Botanic Garden in Edinburgh as sales and events manager. I then moved to Heritage Portfolio, which is a catering company based in Edinburgh, and I worked as their head of corporate sales, and I was there for almost 3 years, where we were bought over by Sodexo. So I moved back to Sodexo, so that was March 19 that takes me up to, and the role that I was in laterally was head of sales in MICE UK for Sodexo Prestige. So that was a group of about 50 venues at the time, and my team operated above venue sales support for the team, and it was working with 5 brands across the UK and just pitching to the MICE segment around fitting the right venues to the right client at the right time was pretty much what we did. So I led a team of 4 plus me, and unfortunately in July of last year my position was made redundant, or the role was made redundant as part of the impact of COVID. So since then I have been redundant, which is a bit unusual. So that kind of in a nutshell sums up my background and where I'm at currently.
Yes, well, it's an amazing, you can see that you had like an amazing life experience. It has been great so far, and hopefully when we go back to host events, I'm sure you will get back to the industry really quickly. You mentioned about like wanting to leave Scotland and never come back. I've got exactly the opposite. I just want to be in Scotland all the time.
I mean, I wouldn't change it now, but conversations you have with your 20-year-old self was that I was probably, I think the plan was in my head was to kind of be in North America, do a bit of that, and then or New Zealand. I haven't made it to Australia and New Zealand yet. And my husband actually, while I was doing North America, he was in India and Australia. So we've kind of covered it between us, but we've never done it. you know, but life gets in the way, and you know, I wouldn't change a thing. It's really interesting that the plans you make as, you know, a recent graduate or anything, the plans you make where life takes you, and I think there's a real message in that, in resilience just now, and actually,
absolutely,
you know, believe in the journey and believe in, you know, that make the right decision for you at the time. We maybe don't need to worry about what a 5-year plan looks like, you know, just roll with what feels what feels good just now, and work, you know, work hard. I'm a big advocate for that. Work hard, and, you know, fingers crossed, you should get there in the end. And everyone's there in the end is different, and I think that's really important to stress just now as well. You know, I think there's a lot of pressure on people to know exactly what they're doing and have a plan and feel confident about it. And, you know, for me, the decisions I've made in my career have been real gut based, and they've been based on not always career objectives. So they've been based around wanting to travel, for example, or it's been someone I've met and I've really bonded with them and I thought I want to work with them. So business decisions haven't always been made in that way. It's been for me, it's a much more gut feel.
Yes, that is great. It is great that you mentioned that. I think that for me it's pretty much like that. I would go with what I feel in the moment and let things flow. And then so getting back like to the business events in the city of Edinburgh, to this industry, can you tell us a bit about like how you see the impact that COVID-19 had in the industry in our city?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely massive. I mean, I remember working in the office with Heritage Dexo in March of last year. And interestingly, I went on holiday in March last year. I went away for a week and came back on the 9th of March and thinking this is still a bit of a storm in a teacup, and landing into Heathrow thinking, well, there's a few people wearing masks, that's interesting. And then the deterioration over the next couple of weeks was shocking. And I remember one of the girls had a sign up in the office saying, you know, if the band played on the Titanic when it was sinking, the event industry is the band just now, because it felt like we were being targeted first. It felt like the industry was being targeted the hardest. You know, we were stopping events while people could still go to sporting events. They could still go to the bar. They could still go to restaurants. And so it's been tough, and that business has never come back. And in Edinburgh alone, the supply chain, the impact that business events has, I think the stat is that hospitality, it's something like 34,000 people work in hospitality industry across Edinburgh. But when you break that down into, when you take out the restaurants and hotels and you look at business events community solely, when you then bring in the supply chain to that, that is a significant amount of people. And that is a significant amount of people in a city that is only 500,000 people strong. So the impact for Edinburgh has been massive. And I think the totalness, the fact that we're 100% split, 100% gone events, the quality of people from chefs to people like me in really senior positions, to the creatives, to the event planners, to the students who are getting part-time jobs, the impact across so many segments of society is absolutely massive as well. So it's had an absolutely, it cannot be understated how devastating an impact COVID has had on the business events community, and the impact that that's having across Edinburgh.
Yes, absolutely. And in your opinion, have national and local government provided enough support to the companies in our industry, to our industry?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about it?
I think the support that's been given has been unprecedented. I think the furlough scheme, the job retention scheme, was a good scheme, and it was set up with the best intentions. I've no doubt about that. However, the complexities of the business events industry, the amount of people that freelance, the amount of people that are self-employed, that hasn't supported them. And I think that's a real shame. And I just know from speaking to people, you know, there's been issues around insurance companies not paying out for insurance for the collapse of business. Wow. Although that has been just at the beginning of this year. But businesses that have been paying for insurance who thought that they were going to get a payout in March, April, May, June last year, and only just finding out in January that they're going to get some level of recompense. It's massive. So I really feel for a lot of the businesses that have been planning their way through this and trying to work out what they're going to get, because I don't think it's been an easy process to find out what money you're due, and how you can claim for it and the timeliness. I think the timeliness of grants coming through has been good, but I think there's been a lot of people that have fallen through the cracks. So overall, I would say the support has been good, and I think that they were quick enough. I think the furlough scheme for sure has to be extended for business events community. If we can't open up, and that's where I have a small issue with hospitality being linked as one thing, because there's a huge difference between a restaurant being able to open at 50% capacity and a venue only being able to offer 25%, because the impact and how that goes through the supply chain, and having worked for a catering company for the best part of 10 years, I'm fully aware of how big a supply chain we rely on, florist, linen and cater hire, and the food elements as well, all the artisan producers. It's a massive, massive impact. So I think that furlough really does have to be extended. I think we need to look at segmenting down the hospitality industry and seeing who can open up and who's still viable. And I think that more has to be done, and it has to be done quickly now. As we sit here in the second week in February, a lot of people need to start making decisions about whether or not they can keep people in jobs past the end of April. And those are decisions that are happening now. So the support has to happen in line with that before decisions are made for people where they can't come back from it. You know, being made redundant is a horrendous, horrendous thing. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I've been okay with it, but it's been really horrible some days. It's really tough to lose that sense of worth, sense of your network, for sure. It's really difficult. And there's a lot of good people out there, that hospitality workers, we don't tend to get into this industry for the money, that's for sure. So
yes.
we do it. We're hard workers and we're passionate. And so there's a lot of real transferable skills here that people should be looking at to bring into their other businesses as well. Although I really hope that we can keep as much talent as possible within the hospitality industry, because we will need it when it comes back.
Yes, I totally agree there. And I think that like working in events we are really passionate about what we do. We love like all the setting up of everything, and then when the event is happening, like the speaking with people, meeting people from all over the world, that is something that really keeps me alive, let's say.
Yeah,
I really absolutely love it. And now looking at the legacies of the business events industry to the city of Edinburgh, can you tell us a bit more about that? How do business events contribute to the overall well-being of Edinburgh? What do they bring?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the measures of a legacy from an event are societal, environmental and economic. And business events absolutely hits those criteria. Economically, it's known that a business event traveller, I think the stat is 3 times more spend than a leisure tourist. So when you bring in these business travellers for a conference, for an incentive event, for something like that, they will spend 3 times more during their stay. So that is a massive support to the city. The societal, it employs a lot of people. A lot of people rely on business events to come in. So on the most fundamental basic of society, that people can be paid well for work that they do, that they enjoy, that has a massive impact across the city. And environmental, I believe that business events, and I know that Visit Scotland and Rory through their legacy campaign have looked an awful lot about how do you enhance, how do you elevate the legacy that business events leave behind. And a part of that is through the investment, through the startups. And you look at what the universities in particular and other enterprises do throughout the city, and through the startup segments and different areas like that. There's a huge investment, and firstly the knowledge share, for sure. When people come in and you're able to exchange ideas with people at a conference, that's massive. But also the investment people have when we're able to take them around the business, the fintech, the different things like that are going on within Edinburgh, that has a massive benefit as well. So those are for me, those are the key legacies from business events, and it's something that Edinburgh has done well with in the past, but we need to work harder to make sure that business events come back well within Edinburgh, because we work in a super competitive market. And with the acceleration of online and virtual and hybrid, we really have to work hard as a destination to look at why would you bring your business events to Edinburgh? Because, you know, it's going to be a really easy thing for a lot of people to use hybrid or virtual going forward, you won't have those travels. If you don't have the travel coming in, you don't have the spends, you don't have the issue of connections and how do you get people into Edinburgh and all that sort of stuff. And so, but then you miss out on that knowledge share, and you miss out on bringing people and that potential investment actually coming into Edinburgh and seeing it how it works on a grassroots levels. So it's extraordinarily important that we get business events back up strongly in Edinburgh as soon as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And on another note, business events are being considered as extremely important for economy recovery of destination post-COVID-19. It is something that the sector in Edinburgh is looking at?
Well, yes, and there has been stuff done, but I think Edinburgh, particularly at this point, is in an extraordinarily precarious situation. The council mothballed or put Marketing Edinburgh into hibernation a year past February, or almost a full year ago now. So that means that there's no single voice or no joined up voice speaking for Edinburgh on the business events platform just now, and that is a real risk to the city. And as I said earlier, we work in an extremely competitive time. And I see lots of marketing bureaus working and promoting their destination in the UK, around the world. And I worry that Edinburgh is going to be lost in the noise, because while we have a beautiful city, there are lots of beautiful cities in the world. And I think there's a real risk that Edinburgh will be left behind in the business events community if there can't be something done to bring together a collaborative voice for the business events community within Edinburgh. It's a real worry of mine, and something that I've been working on with different partners across the city to try and see what we can bring back and we can do to help. Because ultimately, a strong business events economy within Edinburgh will give me back a job. It will give me a job. It will bring you guys back from Portugal, and it will bring you back into working in the event industry in Edinburgh. So it's critical that we get that going.
And this is also an important topic for sustainability of the sector, and also for the destination. In which ways can business events contribute to sustainability of cities and communities, do you think?
Yeah, well, I think one of the good things about business events is that in a perfect mix, you have your tourists, your leisure travellers coming in throughout the season, and then you have business events propping up the shoulder months. So conference season, September, October, November, and then January, February, March, April, and that works really well. What that allows you to do, should allow you to smooth out your highs and lows and keep occupancy at a decent level. And Edinburgh's been good at that in the past, and that helps massively. It keeps you away from, I hate the term over tourism. I don't believe for a second that Edinburgh has over tourism. It has a couple of streets in August that are really busy, but on the whole, I think Edinburgh's a big enough city. I think we should work harder at moving the footfall throughout the area, and working maybe more collaborative with the Lothians and perhaps Fife or towards into the Central Belt, and spreading out a little bit. But there's an awful lot that the business events can do to help the overall sustainability, so that tourism should be a complement to the city. They should be a complement of how Edinburgh residents live their lives. And I think that as we build back from the COVID impacts, I think there's a real opportunity to reset that balance there and look at, I think we need more positive news stories around how tourism impacts positively on the destination. And I also think that we have to have more stories about the deeper level of what business events and tourism does for the city. And I think we need to look at how it benefits people's lives through employment, how it offers a lot of employment to part-time workers, to female workers. So there's a lot of help there throughout the city. And I think that all helps to contribute to the sustainable life of a city and the community as well. And the two should work hand in hand. I think that in the past, there's been a bit of a negative barrier through the press and different things like that, and some groups within Edinburgh who see all tourists as a bad thing. And I think we need to elevate that argument and educate people a little better on what it actually means to the city. Because if you rely purely, well, Edinburgh needs tourism. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. But to rely purely on a leisure tourist is a difficult balance indeed. So you need that really nice balance between business events and a leisure tourist to keep the city, I think, working as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, it's true, for sure. And in your opinion, can Brexit impact the sector in Scotland in a negative way? Do you see any opportunity to Scotland do as it is international perceived in, let's say, more positive way than the rest of the UK?
Okay, you asked my opinion, so I'm going to give you my opinion. My opinion is it's a bad idea. I think that as we work in a globally connected way, to put any sort of barrier up with your closest trading bloc is a bad idea. I think that Scotland does well at telling its own story. I think that Scotland politically is a different sort of I think overall we work with a community at our heart. I think that we are a generous nation, and I think we're an innovative nation, and I think Scotland is its own brand, is its own story, is its people. I think stands, I don't want to say separately because I'm not getting into that whole thing with the UK. I don't believe that, but I think that Scotland can stand on its own feet, understand that people understand what Scotland is against England and Wales. I think people get confused with Scotland and Ireland a lot of the time, and I've certainly come across that when I've been on trade shows, stands and different things around the world. So I think that Scotland has done a good job narrating its own story and its opportunities. I think Brexit's going to have a huge impact on how we staff our industry, for sure, and I don't think that will be felt in Edinburgh. I think that there's a huge issue that we're going to see through the Highlands, through the more remote areas where it relies massively on incoming labour, and if that doesn't come back, there's going to be a huge issue in places like that. But so on the whole, I don't think Brexit's a great idea. I think there's a way to navigate through it. I think that we should be looking at how do we attract the best quality of talent in. I think that we need to do more in the industry as well to attract hospitality to our kids and to say to them, this is a good career for you. I think that it's something I'm passionate about saying to people, that a career in hospitality. My husband's a chef. He left school with no formal qualifications, went into catering college. He's never been out of work. He had a couple of months off on furlough. He's never been out of work, and he's worked around the world. And I think that a hospitality career suits a lot of people who know that they perhaps don't want to do a 9-to-5 office job. Hospitality is incredibly flexible. You work really hard, of course you do, but it allows people that instant gratification of seeing a job delivered. You work on an event, you've done a good job. You see a beautiful room set up, or you're in a kitchen and you see beautiful food come out. So I think we need to do more to attract our young people into a career in hospitality, and I think that's going to be really needed if we see the drop-off in incoming labour, and that'll be a huge impact of Brexit as well.
And how does the industry in general, how you see the connection between Scotland and Europe, and also with the rest of UK?
Yeah. Okay, so I think that, as I said, Scotland has been able to narrate its own story well. I think that we see a massive bounce of popularity. I mean, people have got certain ideas of Scotland, and I think there's an opportunity certainly to reinforce those, but also to enhance further that we're an innovative country, that we are more socially aware. I think we're leading the way on female rights and things like that, and having a female First Minister I think is a really good thing, and the things we've done around period proverty and things like that, super strong. I think that the connection with the rest of the UK is good, and I know certainly I used to work very closely with colleagues in London and in different marketing destination DMOs across the country, and people understand well what Scotland does. And I think that the message for Europe, I think people know what they're going to get when they come to Scotland. I think there's an opportunity to certainly bed that in, but also to take it further as well. And I'd like to see opportunities at different packages. I think Glasgow's got a huge opportunity around travel market to come up, and people, they know about Skye and different places like this, but there's huge opportunities for the Highlands, for different parts of for Scotland to spread that tourist mix out a bit better through our little country. I think Scotland as a community worked well together as well. So I think that we work strongly. I think that most people who work in Scotland appreciate that it is a small country, and that we need to collaborate well with other people to bring business into the future. So certainly my experience and people I've worked with, the partnership, the collaboration has always been key to the way that I've worked, and I think a lot of people that I work with completely understand that as well. You know, we need to be a strong wee city as Edinburgh. We need to be a strong wee country as Scotland, because, as I've said earlier, we're competing globally now. And, you know, we're never going to have the weather on our side as I look out my window and see about 6 foot of snow out there. But, you know, people don't come to Scotland for their summer holidays for a suntan. So we need to work really well to make sure that when they come here, they're having a beautiful, enriching experience. And I think as a country, and we work well on that when people are coming in to show the very best of everything that Scotland can do.
Yeah, and also, as you say, Brexit also don't help this connection between Scotland and Europe. Doesn't help a lot. And what would be your message for us, like me and Monica? We are students and young professionals, not yet, but we will. We kind of. What would your message be for us that we are finished now? Students are finished the undergrad and post graduate. You have any advice that you would like to share for us? Because now the world is in collapse. And who could say for us in these times also?
Yeah. I mean, firstly, the world is not in collapse. We're having a wee moment of reset. We're having a pause. It's a bit of a disruption. I think that people that work, for me, I think I said right at the beginning, I have not made decisions based on a plan. I've made decisions, oh my God. I think that if you inform yourself, if you remain open to new ideas, if you're passionate, those are the things that help people survive and strive within the hospitality industry. As I said earlier, this is not an industry people get into to make millions, right? Some people will, but we do it because we love it. We love it because of the personal connections. We love it because it's a job well done. And when I am a salesperson, when you work with a client, when you sell them an event, when you see that event come together, that's a job well done for me. I know that I've nailed it there. By making the client happy and bringing money into the business. So I would say, look at what you want to do and work towards that. And kind of, you know, this is a difficult time. There's no doubt about it. And I've been affected as much as anyone else has been in this. I've been 6 months with no job, which is unthinkable. If someone had even said to me in March or April this would happen, I would have said unthinkable. So I totally get it's a difficult time. I would say look at what your dream job would be and work towards that. So work out what your passion is, and your passion doesn't have to be your passion for 40 years' time. It doesn't have to be what you're going to do when you're in your 50s, right? Work out what makes you tick now, right? In hospitality, we have to work long hours. We put the graft in, and you can only do that if you're fully committed to it from your heart. So what are you passionate about? What do you see? Where do you see yourself adding value? And work towards that. And what I would say is connect with people along the way. What I have found through this process is people have been extraordinarily kind in reaching out with their time. And I've got a good network. I've been in this industry for a long time. And I've been reaching out to people that I don't know. I've been sending people messages on LinkedIn and saying, listen, I've never had a chance to catch up with you before, but I love your work. Do you fancy a coffee? Either face-to-face, when in the glory days we were able to have a face-to-face coffee, or a LinkedIn chat or a Zoom call or whatever. And people have been really kind with their time. I think people want to see different people as well, either bored with their own families. But so do that as well. Be a bit bold. Don't annoy people, but be bold, you know, and have a reason why you're getting in touch with someone. And I think most people will be, if you approach it the right way, will be generally pleased and get a good outcome from that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And how do you see the future for the business events industry in general, when we managing to, if we can say so, control this pandemic?
Yeah. I'm the most positive person. I like to see the best in everything. So I would love to see that business events will come back. I know they will, because we love meeting people. We love connection. Humans are social groups. We've always sat together in groups, back to the cavemen and, you know, paintings and stuff. We've enjoyed, we tell stories. We want to listen to other people. We want to hear stories. We want to know from other people. So can I see a world where we do everything on Zoom? Absolutely not. I'm a hugger. I want to hug somebody, and I want to, you know, I want to share a canopy with someone and talk over a glass of wine so badly.
And I think that actually is also important, because we are humans, right?
Exactly. We need that social interaction. We're not going to evolve. We're not going to de-evolve our habits over a year. It's going to take time, of course, and some people are going to really struggle to get back into busy rooms and things like that. But I think there'll be people like me that'll carry the rest of us going, no, it'll be fine. Come on, let's go to the party, or let's go to the gig. So I think business events will come back for sure. I think it's going to be a slow build. And I think we need to look at putting everything we can in place to make people feel safe and give them as much confidence as possible. I wish that we were having a media just now that was giving us more positive stories around people getting back together. And I wish that we would just pause the scaremongering. I'm so frustrated by hearing the what ifs on the news. What if this happens? What if this variant comes in and this vaccine doesn't work? Blah, blah, blah. It's so, people are stressed enough without the what ifs. So I wish we could just hold on to what we know. We know we're coming out of this. We know numbers are dropping. There's a vaccine now. We're getting on top of this. So we need people to feel comfortable about coming back and confident. And so I think business events has got a future. I absolutely believe it. I'm not moving away from this industry. I've stuck hard to my guns, and I hope that pays off. That this is the industry I love. I love working in hospitality. I think it's a huge asset to Scotland. I think that we can do more to bring our young people into it and to show our Scots that there are really good careers within hospitality, that people can get to lots of different levels. I think there's more to be done around that. And I love it. You know, I love doing a fancy dinner in a castle or something beautiful. You know, you bring in the American tourists, whatever, you know, the incentive groups, and they have a piper come in, and, you know, it's just fantastic. And that makes me proudest. And coming back to what I said about my passion, those are the things. When you have nights like that, and you just go, oh, absolutely fantastic. We firework display at the end of the night, a lone piper. Oh, that's me. That's goosebumps every single time. So that's what I want to get back to. So I think we will get there. I think that we need talent to do it, and hopefully that we can still attract the best in the world, because I think Scotland is a world-class proposition and offer for clients, and we need to get better at working as a community to bring people in and competing on that global stage.
We hope so. And also I think we gave the Valerie, because with the digital world we understood that face-to-face and the contact, it's really important. And also in business, I think it's completely different to have this contact face-to-face with people.
Yes.
Yeah, there's so much, you know, having done these calls and having interviewed on Zoom, that's really difficult. There's so many tells that you don't get from a person in a screen. You know, I'm looking at you just now, there's a little box. You know, you can't see my hands, you can't see, you know, all the body language, all those different things. Is someone engaged with you? It's so difficult to tell. And you can't have those, you know, I'm thinking like if you're starting out in your career and you want to go and have a heart-to-heart with a boss or someone you admire or something like that, really difficult to do that over Zoom. You really need that face-to-face to have you know, those conversations that perhaps we can only have in person, so that you can fully see what's going on there. And that's a massive way for people to enhance their careers as well and move forward, by connecting with people on that level. Really difficult for online just now.
It's true that online can connect people in different parts of the world, but also have these disadvantages.
Yeah, so I think you can have good top level, surface level conversations, but to delve deeper, I firmly believe that to have those difficult conversations, you have to be in front of someone, or to ask for help, or, you know, to understand how someone's really feeling. I really believe that has to be a face to face, see the tell, see someone sweating or their glitter in their eye or whatever it is, you know, it's so important that you see those things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I miss that so much.
I know.
And Stephanie, how can people, while listening to us, get in contact with you, and where can they find you online too?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. So get in touch with me on LinkedIn. It's Stephanie Lee. I think it's Stephanie Lee Sales is I worked out the way how you change your thing on LinkedIn, so you're not a number, but you've got a word.
Oh.
So I'm on there. I do use Twitter, but it's kind of more personal. Facebook's entirely personal. So Twitter tends to be me being a bit ranty. Normal Brexit or COVID, I go on the two. So Twitter, I'm Stephers Claire on Twitter, and but LinkedIn would be the primary way to get in touch with me.
Perfect. And just to finish, is there any song that like kind of lifts your mood during these like dark days and winter days?
I was so happy when I saw the interview questions you sent over. I was so happy that someone asked me about my music, because I love that.
I think it's important for us, like going through all these with all the difficulties that we have. Music is so important.
Yeah, so music. So I bought for our little family. I've got 2 daughters and my husband, and we bought for Christmas, little present from Santa. We bought a disco ball and a microphone for the kitchen disco. So we nailed kitchen discos this year. So music is so important to us. We have the radio on all the time, and that's how I benchmark my parenting skills. If my kids can tell Bruce Springsteen or Prince or something like that on the radio, I'm like, oh, I raised you so well. I'm so proud of you. So I'm going to tell you my favourite band is a Scottish band, and my favourite song is a song called My Backwards Walk. Listen to it, it's fantastic. The band is Frightened Rabbit. It's a Scottish band, unfortunately not really recording actively at the moment because the lead singer is no longer with us, but they're my favourite band. His voice moves me and makes me happy every time I hear it. So I listen to them almost on a daily basis because they're amazing. Everyone should get involved with Frightened Rabbit. They're the very best. But the song My Backwards Walk is brilliant. And it's the perfect love song, if you will, because it's all about leaving someone when you know you shouldn't, or you shouldn't be with them any longer, but you can't help it. But the chorus, and I won't tell you what it is, but at the end, it's just the best. It's just the best way to tell someone that you love them. So I won't tell you what it is. Listen to the song, and then people can message me. Yeah, it's my favourite. So thank you for asking me my favourite song, because that made me really happy.
Oh, thank you so much. It made us really, really happy to have you and to speak with you this morning. It was amazing. Thank you so much for your passion and for bringing up like this amazing character that you have. It was really good. Thank you so much.
Positive character. So for sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Very motivating to listen to you. Yes.
Thank you. You know, it's tough times just now, but I think if we hold the head, if we get through it together, if you hold your passion and find out what's going to make you happiest, listen, that's just the way it's going to go, right? And we don't need to look long term on this. Let's go for little quick wins. And and particularly for recent graduates, you don't need to know your whole life. You don't need to know what's happening next. Go with your gut feel. Everyone will get there.
Thank you so much.
You can do everything.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much
for being with us. Okay, thank you so much everyone for listening to this episode of the Business Events Podcast. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn at the Business Events Podcast. And now you can also follow us on Spotify and Deezer. And please do get in touch if you'd like to be a guest in our podcast. Our email is info@thebusinesseventspodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
I'm working on my backwards walk, walking with no shoes or socks.